Commander whipped his cloak around as a swirling red aura gathered around him, creating a vibe that was both imposing and dangerously cool. With a sly smile, he hinted that things would be pretty boring if he spilled all the secrets. His tone was so loaded with mystery that Theo had to lean in to catch every word. Out of nowhere, a book materialized in Theo's hands. Panic set in as he stared at this strange object, not even having a chance to process what was happening. Clutching the book, Theo asked what it was, and the commander replied that it was the record of the debate between him and MS Plum Blossom about the principles of the sword. Theo was floored, wondering if this book held the hidden martial secrets of the two sides of the 9 dragons. The commander admitted it was something extremely rare, then turned to Theo with a purposeful look, as if to pass on a vital message. Around them, petals fell silently from a lone tree, and a voice resonated that Theo had now become the disciple of both sides. 2 majestic figures, Sword Dragon and Ghost Dragon, seemed to loom in the background, symbolizing the deep connection between them. Bold words confirmed that Theo was now a disciple of both Sword Dragon and Ghost Dragon, 2 opposing forces that somehow coexisted within him. On 2 high peaks, the armored figure sat next to the massive body of the dragon, while the one wearing a black cloak stood across from him. They both silently observed each other, the mist swirling slowly beneath a deep ravine. The armored figure pulled out a notebook, gently tapping the quill's tip on the cover, his face serious as if weighing every word he was about to write. He looked up, his gaze wandering into the void, as if comparing something in his mind. The one with the blindfold let out a sigh, his face clouded with a sense of worry. He paused for a long moment, then squinted, clearly reflecting on recent events, his gaze lost in the thickening fog. He spoke up, remarking that the woman was ruthless for wanting to share Theo, considering that the boy was already his disciple. She snorted, telling him not to be so possessive. She casually explained that everything was just to help Theo progress further, asking if he could deny that. The one with the blindfold stayed silent, his expression hinting at uncertainty, but he didn't argue. She continued, emphasizing how Theo was making other heir candidates nervous. She pointed out his remarkable progress and rapid growth, something no one had expected, causing the one with the blindfold to nod in acknowledgement, admitting the truth in her words. The one with the blindfold swung his blade in a sharp arc, coldly stating that Theo would hit his limits sooner than most. The woman smiled, holding up a small object telling him that it would help Theo break through the wall in front of him. She suddenly paused, squinting as she wondered what would happen if things didn't go as planned, causing the one with the blindfold to frown. He grew thoughtful, suggesting that if Theo ever became the head of the family, he would become Ragnar's enemy. The woman flinched slightly, a bead of sweat rolling down her cheek. She realized the situation could spiral out of control. They both sat on the stone ledge, and the one with the blindfold repeated that those who develop too quickly often meet a tragic end, making her sigh softly. He reminded her that if history repeated itself, the knowledge they were passing to Theo might turn into bloodshed within the Ragnar family. The woman smiled, amused that he seemed worried. She teased, saying she thought his mind was only filled with love for Theo. She glanced at him, stating that after hearing his fear, she was convinced his concerns weren't just about Theo. The woman held up the notebook, smiling at Julius and affirming that he was the right person to keep it safe. She instructed Julius to keep an eye on Theo, waiting for the moment when the boy wouldn't let greed cloud his vision and would learn to value every moment. She instructed that only then would he hand the notebook back to Theo. Julius stood still, quietly nodding in agreement. Theo held the notebook in his hands, his eyes widening in surprise as he realized the immense value of what he now possessed. He thought about becoming the shared disciple of the Sword Dragon and the Demon Dragon, 2 of the top masters, and a grin of excitement mixed with exhilaration appeared on his face. Julius reassured Theo, telling him not to be too humble, as everyone was in agreement that he deserved this opportunity. Julius looked at Theo, emphasizing that he was handing over the notebook because he believed Theo truly deserved it. Theo smiled contentedly, his eyes shining with joy. He silently reflected on how he had progressed this far thanks to them, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. He lowered his head, thinking that even though he hadn't repaid their kindness, they had always supported him unconditionally. He turned to Julius, reminding him that ever since the Rendon incident, he had received too much help and he promised to repay them one day. Suddenly, something heavy dropped, creating a loud noise that made him freeze in surprise. The armored figure charged down, boldly telling Theo that there was a way for him to repay them right now. He laughed loudly, challenging Theo to a one-on-one fight, admitting it had been a while since he had found such an entertaining toy. He leaped forward, declaring that as commander, he couldn't just sit back and not test his new disciple. The commander excitedly announced that now was the time for the real lesson to begin, causing Theo to break into a cold sweat from nervousness. Shouts rang out rapidly, the sound of BAM echoing continuously, the intensity of the training sending painful cries into the air. The door slammed shut with a cold ka-chunk, signaling that no one was allowed to retreat midway. A voice cried out, calling for Evelyn in the midst of the chaos, trembling with fear. The person frantically apologized to Theo, their body covered in countless piercing attacks, unable to defend themselves. The sky gradually cleared, revealing a quiet space as if signaling a brief pause after the storm. The sound of metal chains clinking echoed through the stillness. Evelyn burst through the open door, her face showing urgency. Theo immediately widened his eyes in shock, stunned by the sight before him. Evelyn hurried over, calling out to the young master with a worried tone, while Theo sat on the steps, exhausted and gasping for air. Evelyn asked if he was okay, seeing his face bruised and drenched in sweat. Theo shook his head, offering a strained smile, saying that the commander had gone a bit too far this time. But Evelyn just pouted, silently acknowledging that Theo was enduring much more than he let on. Theo smiled faintly, reporting that he had locked the person up in the dungeon as instructed. In a dark, cold corner of the prison, the soldier wondered whether leaving the person in peace like this was truly the right choice. The prisoner, chained up, had a hardened face, refusing to speak, leaving them torn between interrogating him or simply keeping him immobilized for now. The prisoner smiled calmly, assuring them there was no need to worry, as everything was part of his plan. He leaned in, calling Evelyn closer, his eyes gleaming with mischief, as if he was about to reveal something important. Evelyn was stunned, her eyes wide in shock at the unexpected whisper. The Plum Blossom Palace appeared magnificent in the night, with snowflakes gently falling before the towering archway. The vast training ground stretched below, quiet yet brimming with a powerful energy ready to explode. Theo placed his hand on his chest, bowing politely to the Lady of the Plum Blossoms, showing respect to the mistress of this place. The woman in the fur coat descended the stairs, confidently stating that she had been waiting for Theo. She mentioned the gift she and the demon dragon had prepared, asking if Theo had received it yet. Theo lowered his head in gratitude, confirming that the gift was incredibly useful, helping him increase his strength. The Lady of the Plum Blossoms waved her hand and ribbons of green light swirled around her, emanating a gentle yet intense aura. His sword appeared within the flowing energy plum petals fluttering down, creating a mesmerizing scene. The light extended, forming a large arc in the air, painting the training ground in a magnificent blend of flowers and spiritual energy. The Lady of the Plum Blossoms gently said that she was happy Theo appreciated the gift, her figure calm and composed in midair. She continued, explaining that she wanted to teach Theo the fundamental core of technique, something many often overlook. She smiled, affirming that this was the root of swordsmanship, the key to reaching the pinnacle. The Lady of the Plum Blossoms touched several shining swords, stating they would begin from here, the first step to unlocking the knowledge of swordsmanship. She smiled again, expressing her desire to teach Theo how to make the sword bring life, like flowers blooming amidst a storm. She glanced at him, repeating her question as if testing Theo's resolve before the lesson ahead. The Lady of the Plum Blossoms tilted her sword, asking Theo if Ragnar was ready to become her disciple, her voice clear and deep amidst the fluttering petals. Theo lowered his head, earnestly asking if he could pose a question before giving his answer, his face showing hesitation. He furrowed his brow, wondering if what was about to happen truly matched the essence of the invitation being extended. The Lady of the Plum Blossoms raised an eyebrow, realizing Theo had addressed her as the Sword Master of the Heavenly Dragon, a title few knew of. She smiled softly, intrigued by his revelation of a secret that most were unaware of. She confirmed she didn't deny the title, placing her sword on the ground and revealing the presence of a rare master. She explained that the Heavenly Dragon Sword Sect was a secretive school, passing down its teachings to only one disciple per generation. She declared herself the sole heir of that sect and the Sword Master of the Heavenly Dragon. She understood that Theo wanted to know her true intentions, so she apologized in advance, silently admitting there were still many things she couldn't reveal right away. The Lady of the Plum Blossoms softened her tone, assuring Theo that she didn't hold anything against him, affirming that she had no hidden agendas. She smiled, explaining that from the secrets of the Plum Blossom Bloom to the Heavenly Dragon Sword, she intended to pass it all down to him. Theo broke into a sweat, stunned by her commitment to entrust him with the very essence of the Lady of the Plum Blossom's martial teachings. He stepped out of the Plum Blossom Palace Hall, walking beneath the plum trees ablaze in pink, petals gently falling. A sudden voice rang out, calling out, "Hey you!" causing Theo to stop, alert and scanning his surroundings. The newcomer confirmed Theo was the new recruit of the White Dragon Cavalry, his tone curious with a hint of implication. Theo confirmed it, then asked what the matter was. The young man with blonde hair seemed irritated, saying that Theo's response was too curt, as if he hadn't bothered with proper greetings. He reminded Theo that since he had joined the Plum Blossom Palace as the disciple of the Lady of the Plum Blossoms, he should at least show respect to his seniors. Theo crossed his arms and gave a faint smile, thinking they were just trying to protect their fragile egos in a childish way. The blonde-haired man grew angry, claiming that Theo didn't see him as a senior because he wasn't a direct superior, which caused the group to murmur in confusion. They questioned why Theo refused to acknowledge them as seniors, insisting that by becoming the disciple of the Lady of the Plum Blossoms, he was automatically their junior. A voice rose, pointing out that there seemed to be a misunderstanding, mentioning that the Lady of the Plum Blossoms inviting Theo to become her disciple didn't mean he had to follow the hierarchy they assumed. Theo stared coldly, revealing that he had actually declined the offer to become the Lady of the Plum Blossoms' disciple. The entire group froze, their eyes wide in disbelief at what they had just heard. This is the end. Please comment Theo below if you want to do next part.